Hello everyone, welcome to my new YouTube channel. Today I'll be doing a video on if 2016 was Game of Thrones. I was inspired by this political article by Matt Latime. It was published in May, I believe, and it was about the GOP's Game of Thrones. However, today I'll be going over candidates in both the Democratic and the Republican nomination for president, along with a few of their allies. So basically, I'll be going through political figures around the presidency in the 2016 election and comparing them to characters within Game of Thrones. Obviously, there's going to be some spoilers, so if you're not caught up in the TV show, definitely you're kind of screwed if you want to watch this. I hope you're going to come back and watch it later, though. And I've only read the first two books of Game of Thrones so far. A Song of Ice and Fire so far, so don't worry too much about book spoilers. Alrighty, let's get started. So the first question is, who's on the Iron Throne at this moment? Or who was on the Iron Throne? Because obviously Robert Baratheon got. So right now, my Robert Baratheon is President Obama. I'm not saying that Obama's a terrible president or anything like that. That's obviously for you to decide. But Obama's on his way out, same as Robert Baratheon. And, you know, his absence is causing this power struggle. Okay, so the Democratic frontrunner for the presidency is Hillary Clinton. So who do I think Hillary Clinton is in Game of Thrones? I'm betting a lot of you think that I picked Daenerys. Key and Peele definitely made that comparison before. But I picked someone else, actually. I picked Cersei Lannister. For a good reason. I think when you see who I picked Jaime Lannister as, you'll kind of understand. Daenerys and Cersei are very similar in that they're both ambitious. The only difference is that Daenerys is on this journey to reclaim her family's power, but Cersei is just trying to maintain her family power. And I think that Hillary Clinton is more trying to maintain power than seeking to restore it. I mean, if you think about it, the Clintons have a really high approval rating right now, especially Bill Clinton, although Hillary has really high unfavorables in some areas, like trustworthiness. As of the date of this video, I'm making this video in August of 2015. But my main reasoning is the fact that, yes, the Clintons have really high approval ratings, and the Democrats won the 2000 election popular vote. So really, they're not in a terrible standing as opposed to the Bushes, who, although over time they've gotten more traction and more favorability, they're not nearly in the same spot as the Clintons right now. And Jeb has a big struggle if he's going to actually win the nomination. So you might have seen this coming, but Jaime Lannister is Bill Clinton. And I actually started off this video thinking, oh, the Clintons are like Jaime and Cersei. So that's really where most of my thing is going to go. My video so far is going to go. And I'm not going to do Joffrey just because it's kind of a cheap shot. So not really sorry about that. I'm not going to explain that. I do think that Chelsea Clinton, a good analogy for her is Marcella and Tommen Baratheon, you know, daughter of Bill and Hillary. You know, that kind of makes sense here. So who's Bernie Sanders? Now, Bernie Sanders, he's a very popular, he's a populist at this moment in time. He's a senator from Vermont, in case you didn't know that. He's got a good shot at the Democratic nomination. Him and Martin O'Malley look to be the most positioned to take over if Hillary were to falter, with the exception of Joe Biden. So who's Bernie Sanders? He's really popular, especially among young people. So I thought it would be only fitting to pick one of Game of Thrones' most popular characters as Bernie Sanders. Tyrion Lannister. Tyrion's someone who's probably not going to win the Game of Thrones. He's basically in a position to influence who does win the Game of Thrones. And that is why I picked Bernie. I don't think Bernie Sanders is going to win, but he definitely will have a big impact this election, especially with how Democrats lean toward Hillary or feel about her. Obviously, Bernie Sanders is from the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. We kind of like to pretend that, you know, Republicans and Democrats, their parties aren't diverse or big, but there's a progressive wing of the Democratic Party, there's an environmentalist wing, there's a moderate wing, and so I think Mayor Bill de Blasio and Senator Elizabeth Warren are good representatives of this. And I picked Tywin Lannister as a character to represent those two, and that they have a big influence on Cersei Lannister / Hillary, but Cersei wants to do her own thing. Hillary wants to do her own thing. She doesn't want to be beholden to the progressive ideology, even though she's going to get some influence from it. So finally, we have Lord Varys. Varys is a character who's going, like Tyrion, is going to influence the Game of Thrones, but he probably won't win it. I would be really shocked if he did, and that would be really interesting if Martin chose something like that. And some of you may not know this person, but for Varys, I picked Valerie Jarrett. She's one of the advisors for President Obama. She's known him and Michelle for a really long time, and I forget her exact position, but she's one of his most trusted advisors. So that's why I picked Lord Varys. Obviously, she's not going to, be a consultant for a Republican if a Republican were to win 2016. But I think that for Democrats, whichever Democrat wins, she would at least have some influence on their cabinet. Now, who was Littlefinger? Obviously, this doesn't all match up. Some of the Republicans are going to end up with the Democrats in this analysis. But for Littlefinger, I picked Bobby Jindal. My reasoning is basically that Bobby Jindal and Littlefinger both come from small places. Bobby Jindal is the governor of Louisiana. It's a decently sized state. However, politically, it's not so great in either the Republican Party or in the United States. It often ranks toward the bottom, if not the very bottom, of education and other analysi of life, with the exception of New Orleans. Now we're on House Baratheon. Oh my gosh. So, this is... I just tried to kill a fly. Now we're on House Baratheon and House Tyrell. So, for this, I mainly picked conservatives, in that the conservatives are strongly rooted against the Democrats in this. I picked Loras with Ben Carson. I'm not going to explain that too much other than the fact that they're rooted against the Lannisters. Alright, now for Stannis Baratheon, I think a really good analogy here is Joe Biden. Joe Biden is going against... Stannis Baratheon is going against Cersei Lannister in that he wants her and all her children just off that Iron Throne. It belongs to him. He feels like Robert Baratheon passed him over, and he will do whatever it takes to get back to the Iron Throne and take what's rightfully his, including Storm's End. And so someone really encouraged Joe Biden to seek the presidency, although he hasn't made a decision yet, according to insiders. And that was Beau Biden. So I think Beau Biden relates to Sir Davos. May Beau Biden rest in peace, by the way. And now we have Renly Baratheon. Renly is another populist, similar to Tyrion. Tyrion is more of a populist with the fans, but Renly was a populist in the political sense. And so Renly, I think because he aroused so many people, like Storm's End and Highgarden. Arouse is the wrong word, but whatever. So I think he really relates to Donald Trump. The reason I originally picked Renly and Donald Trump, paired them together. Renly and Tyrion, their reasonings behind them are very similar. So I think that Renly could either be Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump, but basically both of them are populist. Both of them have high appeal with a lot of people. I don't think Donald Trump will even win the nomination or the presidency. And I did pick him originally thinking that Donald Trump would be picked off, but I've been proven wrong. Like, Donald Trump just defies the political odds, like him or not. He defies political rules, and still he polls really well. General election, he doesn't poll so well, but at least for now with the Republican primary, he does. We'll see if he actually gets votes when it comes down to caucuses and such things like that, but we'll see. And now we have the Alliance Weavers, so another conservative. You might object to me calling Donald Trump conservative. I kind of object to that too, but for now we'll go with it. Another person who goes with this conservative coalition is Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz, he manages his alliances very well for the most part, or he changes them sometimes. He used to kind of roll with Rand Paul. Now they're going at it probably because it's 2016 election. And Marjorie does the same thing. She started off with she started off with Renly, then she went to Joffrey, then she went to Tommen. And Ted Cruz, he kind of does the same thing too. He's like, I can't insult Donald Trump too much. I'm going to defend him so I can get his votes when he drops off. Maybe get his, endorsement. So we'll see how this works. Now, Brienne of Tarth. I picked Mike Huckabee. This is again going with that conservative coalition thing. Mike Huckabee actually does pretty well with debates. He's kind of a fighter like Brienne. So, there you go. Now we're on House Stark. One of the best houses in everyone's opinion, I think. Now, who's Ned Stark? Ned Stark is Martin O'Malley. I also picked... Ned Stark was a character who got picked off very early. He clearly looked like a front runner, but he got pwned, basically. And no insults to Martin O'Malley. He's running a serious campaign. He's running this like he can win it, and he very well might. History is not, as John Green often says, we're in the middle of history. We're not at the beginning or the end of it. So we'll see what happens here. He might very well be our next president. Martin O'Malley. He sort of, at least now, Bernie Sanders has taken his mantle as the alternative for Hillary Clinton, for the Democrats. Joe Biden might even take that from Bernie pretty soon, so we'll see. And so based on political lifespan, that's why I picked Martin O'Malley with Ned Stark. And see, I did pick a Democrat who is one of the best a character who's one of the best with a Democrat. So don't be all like, oh, you hate Democrats, oh, you hate Republicans. Don't whine about it. It's my opinion. It's just fun. And I like Democrats and Republicans, actually. So, no, who's Robb Stark? This is the only person who actually paired up the political article and I agreed with. So I picked Marco Rubio with Robb Stark. Marco Rubio, he looks like a very strong contender for the nomination. He's a bright, rising political star. However, like Robb Stark, I think, spoiler alert, I think he's going to get taken out toward the end of this thing, or in the middle of this thing. I don't think he's actually going to drop out. I imagine for the nomination, I think he'll stay in very close to the end. But I don't really see him winning right now, based on Jeb Bush has some of the same appeal, and even though the GOP needs to branch out more with minorities if they want to win 2016, I think he's a little bit too much of a fresh face for people. However, he might get the nomination, so we'll see. Robb Stark looked like he was in a good position to win the Game of Thrones too, but we saw how that turned out. Now, who's Catelyn Stark? Okay, Catelyn Stark, I think, is Carly Fiorina. Clearly, after the baby debate with the GOP, we saw that Carly is a fierce person. She is a cancer survivor. She did lose a Senate election in California, but she's a woman who's very strong in what she believes in, same as Catelyn Stark. They won't go back on their beliefs, and that's something admirable. And in contrast to Hillary Clinton, not trying to knock her, I think people believe that Carly Fiorina believes what she believes much more than Hillary Clinton, who seems to have made a lot of changes. I'm going to make this a two-part video, and when I come back, we'll continue with the rest of House Stark and the Queen Across the Water. So, we'll see you next time.